Welcome back to Real Conversations with Nora for our 58th episode. And our topic of discussion this week is Black Lives Matter. And joining me today is Pastor Kim McKissick. And Pastor Kim is a personal development mentor and builder of women. She has been anointed to shepherd and help women to be the best and fulfill their life calling. She has been married to Bishop Rudolph McKissick Jr. for 29 years, and together they have 3 children: Jocelyn, Janae, okay, and Joshua. As an entrepreneur, Pastor Kim fosters a mentoring program, mending and mentoring, that assists those who want to live a balanced life and help them create a strategic plan for themselves and focus on the outcome of the outcome of the great results. And she is the author. Are you an author? Is that right, Pastor Kim? Yeah, author of 2 books, Entrepreneur's Bag and The Joy Spot. At Bethel Church, she serves as the executive pastor and leads the Women of Purpose Ladies Ministry and co-leads the Covenant Keepers Marriage Ministry with her husband, who is also the senior pastor of their church. So, Pastor Kim, thank you so much, and welcome, my friend. It's been so long since I've seen you. You look fabulous. It's great to see you.
Thank you so much for having me. This is such an amazing platform, an amazing purpose that you have, Nora Gordon, and I'm so grateful to be here with you and be alongside you on this journey. So thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm telling you, God gives you a vision. Sometimes you're like, but I am enjoying it. And so it's been a pleasure. It's been a little over a year. It's been over a year since we started this. And so we're just continuing on and just believing God to do some great and mighty things. Awesome. With us upon retirement. I just thought I was going to come back and just sit back and relax. And you know, God, He always had something different.
Always,
right?
Always, He always has more for you.
Right, He does
before you start. So
right, yeah. He does. So, how is it different? Do you feel like for us growing up in this world of America as Black people, as Black Americans, especially in this day and time with so much going on? I wanted to get your viewpoint on that. How do you feel about that?
Well, I think first we have to go back to the foundation and realize it's funny, people in the conversations that we see on social media,
right,
that people are having, of course, across the globe, whether it's in the news or in editorials. We have to go back to the foundation. This country was not built for us.
Right.
It was built by white men. For them and for anyone who looked like them.
Right.
And so the word woman is not in the Constitution.
Right.
And so when they came and thought up the Constitution, they did not have us in mind.
Right.
And so all of their policies, all of their systems, all of their guidelines, all of their rules, their laws are not made for us. And so here we are in the picture.
Right.
And so it's like they don't know what to do with us.
Right.
And so they're having to, those who are in power are having to tolerate us,
right,
accommodate us,
right,
because we're here.
Right.
And so it's showing it's rearing its ugly head now.
Right.
Because we are running for offices. We are now in the political arena. We're now on the stage. We're now in the pulpit. We're now taking the leadership, whether it's at the TV station, whether it's the CEO of major organization, Fortune 500 companies and that kind of thing. So we're making moves and making waves, and they don't know what to do with us.
Right.
And so when we're trying to holler Black Lives Matter, we're trying to let them know, hey, we're not in competition. We're on this journey with you. For the betterment, for the American dream, as they have called it.
Right.
The American dream is really no more, because we're out here trying to fight just to be recognized as a person.
Right. And even for voting, for that matter. I mean, that's another show, right?
Baby, when I tell you it's another show about voting. I don't understand why the suppression is real, oppression is real.
Yes.
And so this voting thing, you can tell how they move and what they fear because of what they're trying to stop us from doing.
Right. We'll have to have you back on to talk about that one, because that's another show. That's not. But I read something on Google that I found very interesting. It says you must be 10 times better than your white counterpart or people in school, sports, or as a professional to receive the same equal treatment that that others receive versus us. So talk about that for a minute. What's your thought on that?
I don't know about 10 times better. I just feel it doesn't matter how better we are.
Right.
There's always a standard that's moved.
Right.
When we achieve what they thought we couldn't.
Right.
And so when we say better, I think at the height of our professions, whatever it is, there's always still that modicum of inferiority that they feel from us, because we're doing all the things that they think that they're the only ones able to do.
Right.
And so when we try to achieve, or when we do achieve to be the best at our game, it is so much more harder to prove ourselves, to make sure that they know, hey, I do qualify. I do matter, and I can do this job just as well and as much as you can. But there's always an issue. There's always something coming up. There's always something in the way that they try to push out to the forefront to disqualify us, to knock us down. But hey, we serve a mighty God. And so as a believer, this is how I talk. We may have some people on here that are not, but as a believer, this is how I talk. And so God does have plans for us, and he has plans to prosper us and to grow us, to give us hope in the future. And so I always say, no, that weapon will form, but it won't prosper.
Exactly. I say the same thing, Pastor Kim.
You can, that weapon, you can take your best shot and you can try to do all the things, but what God has for me is for me. And so I just think we stay focused on what God has for us. We stay focused on the assignment. We stay focused on in our lane and what God has us to do, and he will exalt us in due time. And that's what the Bible says. I never worry, because God will exalt us in due time.
The other thing is too, is that we go back into history and all the things that have been done, excuse me, that have been done, that we have created and invented. So talk about that for a minute.
Well,
excuse me.
We've always been creators. God gave us all gifts, everybody. And so we made something out of nothing. The resources, when I think about my grandparents, my grandfather had his own refuse business with a 6th grade education. And so our foreparents did more with less than we are doing right now. They made mountains out of molehills. They made lemonade out of lemons. And so I just think we have a different perspective on how we acquire what we want, on how we get the things that we need. And my grandfather did not allow that to bother him. And my grandmother, she worked inside her home, but she worked with the Girl Scouts. And so they built a lifestyle off of making things happen no matter what the people said. And they didn't listen to all of that. They did what they were supposed to do. They were hard workers. And we work hard to a certain extent. We still want to be spoon-fed. We still expect us to be given to us. And the generation, my children's generation, this is what they're dealing with now. Hey, I worked a little, so where my quote unquote reparation? Where's my due? What can you give me? Hey, listen, we're all out here trying to get the same thing, but you just work until it comes to you. You don't work and then you decide you stop and you're supposed to reap now. You just keep working and it all come to you. So I think it's a matter of perspective. I just think it's a matter of generations and what we're used to, how we were taught. Today's, listen, it's so different now. It's very different now. So you're dealing with two different work ethics. You're dealing with two different mindsets, or I probably should say three when you're talking about generations. So in trying to instill, and when I talk to my kids, when my siblings get together and we talk with our children, you know, the answers are different. The perceptions are different. And so we just try to meet them where they are and talk about, hey, this is what we perceive needs to happen to get what you want to get. And so it just takes hard work. And a lot of them are not willing to put in that sweat equity to get what they need to get.
Right. So can you talk about have you experienced racism which we all have, as a Black woman, but most importantly as a female and a pastor? Even in our church, you know, we have issues with those who think women are not called to preach or talk, and really that's a form of prejudice rather. So can you talk a little bit about that? Because I find that, like, even in this day and time, are you kidding me? This day and time, the time that we're living in, that we're still dealing with those kinds of issues?
We are still dealing with, because it is still a man's world intellectually. Those ideas and systems that were brought forth are man-made. And so we're still of the persuasion the woman is seen and not heard. The woman stays in the kitchen. The woman's place is to be sitting in front with the big hat on. The woman's place is of a servant role under the husband and not above. And that's where a lot of men feel that now the female pastor is pitted above them. And that's really not what it is. It's the assignment that God has us walking in. You know, it's funny, you know, everybody talks about how the women saw him first. And so we were the first one to tell about the risen Savior. So we've always had a mantle on us to preach, to spread the good news, to be the evangelist. And so I just think it depends on the system of that denomination or of that church and the mindset of the person that is there. Now in this day and age, it's funny, this morning I put, or I should say by the time this comes out, a few months ago, I posted that a very dear friend of mine was just elevated to the role of lead pastor because her husband died suddenly in January. And another young lady is being elected as a senior pastor of a church in Baltimore a few months ago. So you have the female getting in those positions of leadership that are male dominated. And so when you talk about racism and classism and sexism, this is what we are having to fight against. It's a trifecta for us. And so I've never been racially classified as far as a pastor, but as a Black professional, when I worked for the city of Jacksonville, I have my boss. She did not realize, but she was very she wouldn't say racist, but it was. Her preference was not that I do certain things. And so when I've traveled, in certain circles, and so people don't realize their preference when it comes to dealing with us and what they would like to see. And what they would like to hear from us. So it's a real weird place to be in and to have to navigate these kind of waters, because now more than ever, this is what we're dealing with. Racism is so much more prevalent. And it also has to do with the leadership of the country.
So we won't go there.
Oh, baby, listen. That it turned the corner when, of course, we saw the first Black president be elected. And so he was the people's president. He wasn't the president for the Black people.
He was the people's
He was the people's president. And I just think he was just unfairly scrutinized by us, because we saw this as an end. Oh, we got it made now. No. We don't know what it takes to be the president of the United States.
You don't know what's in you see the forefront, but you don't see what's going on in the back room.
Listen, at all. at all. And so I think this whole racism atmosphere
Right.
has really ballooned into so much more.
Uh-huh.
We saw it at the insurrection on January 6th.
Right.
It was so funny. That was my birthday. I was supposed to be celebrating, but I was glued in front of the TV because I
Right.
could not believe my
Yeah,
eyes.
what was going on?
And what I was seeing
I
is
know.
this what we have come to.
Right. Right.
Our nation is just so divided.
Yeah.
It's so chaotic.
Right.
It's so so much unrest.
Right.
And
Right.
and so this whole racism thing, I think sometimes we don't help,
Right.
but I think a lot of times we are trying to help it
Right.
get better
Right.
than where we were.
Right. Right. And I mean, I've been with Dr. Hale for like 20, let me see, Keon's 24 years, so probably 25, 27 years, or in the 20s anyway. I've been there a long time under her leadership. I mean, it's a great leadership. I love my pastor. I love my church,
Yes.
so, and then, the other part is we don't hear no scandals about us.
Correct. Correct. Look, correct.
We don't hear no scandals.
I heard someone say recently, and I think it is to a fault. Women do it better.
Right.
We do it better. We have a certain something that God has just given us. Well, we wear so many. We're multitaskers.
Very much so.
He's given us the mantle that we carry so much with us.
Mm-hmm.
We're the helpmeet. We're the nurturers. We're the teachers.
Right.
We do it better.
Right.
But I think we have discretion more so than men do.
Right.
And I think it comes from them being the hunter, the gatherer, the protector.
Right.
And so this is what I feel and what I believe.
Right.
So yeah.
Right. And I love how you and Bishop work together. I mean, that's great. I mean, it's I won't say rare, but you don't see it as often as we should see it. You know what I'm saying? In so many incidents where the man is so out front and the woman's so in the back. And I love the fact that you guys have united and you come together and been together for 29 years. Mm-hmm. That's great. I mean, to be married 10 years or 5 years, if you get past the first year, let's talk about that.
Let's talk about that in this day and age. Yes. 1 year you celebrate, you bring out all the stops.
Right.
Absolutely. I think when my husband decided to elevate me, well, first when I got my calling, this was something that I said, "Oh my goodness, Lord, what are you doing?" Right. And so I just tried to put it off and put it off and put it off. But when he decided to elevate me, and he wanted me to sit up on the pulpit with him, because of course I was sitting out in the congregation. I loved it. Right. Talking with the people, being with the people. I had my crew with me. Right. And I wasn't sitting on the front row either. I was midway to church. It's so funny. Right. And my husband was not that kind of person that dictated where I sat in the church. But when he asked me to, it was a straight out no. And he said, because I don't feel that's my place. I want to be out with the people. Wow. And so we had to talk about that, and I had to come to myself and say, okay, this is where I needed to be to help the women in my church realize that they are called to lead.
Yeah, absolutely.
And leading does not mean that you are a wimp, that you are beneath someone. Leading just means that you're willing to come into agreement with your leadership, and being obedient to what God has for you in that season. So it took a lot for me, but I wanted to show that partnership. I wanted him to know that I'm not just his partner on paper, but I'm his partner in presence. Right. And so that's I'm thankful.
Good. I just love it. I absolutely love it. I watch you guys. I see you guys, and I see like Chrisette and Chuck, that them, how they have partnered together to build greater grace. And, it's not what I love about these men that I know. It's not about them. It's about what God has called them to do, and then what he has called his mate to do, to help him. Because isn't it? I mean, we're supposed to help each other. You know what I'm saying? that's why the Bible says we're evenly yoked. And when we come together, we're like one, not two, but one going separate. So we could go on about that. But let's talk about how we feel about racism in the church. I mean, let's face it, it is there. It is there. And what's your thought about that? Because there are some Angelica Christians who feel like ministries that feel like there's some issues with Black Lives Matter. And
oh yeah, the evangelicals have really lost their minds. How about that?
Right.
I'm just going to put it out there. Once again, racism is rearing its ugly head because of the leadership of the country and what has been allowed and what has been accepted and what has been exposed. Right. And so because you have more and more African American headhunters, presidents, pastors, all of that coming out front, it's rearing its ugly head because it's showing that a lot of people really don't want us in those positions.
Right.
And so when it comes to church, they feel that once again, certain things should not be in the church. Black pastors should not be heads of mega churches. Black women should not be pastors of any church, forget mega or storefront or middle size or whatever you call it. And so racism in the church means that people don't want to hear about our plight of the African American community. They don't want that preached. They don't want to hear about that. They don't want people to know. They don't want to be reminded that that's what they're going through. They want to come to church, hear the word of God, and how they're supposed to live an obedient life, how they can treat their fellow man good and go home. But you can't have all that without dealing with the issues of the day.
Right. And they are real.
You can't have all that without realizing, hey, you are Black. You may be invited to the country club, but you will never be part of their shade tree conversations.
Right.
And so you got to know, hey, this is how they see you. This is how they view you. And you are amongst your real, true brothers and sisters. And we will be there for you when you really need it. And so they don't believe that should be talked in the church. And my husband is he will keep it real and let you know, hey, Jesus was for the underprivileged. Jesus was for the underdog. Jesus was for the poor and downtrodden. He talked about our obligation is for the widows and for the orphans. And so he talked about that all the time, and he was for them all the time. And so for us to not talk about that, to me, we do a disservice. And to me, I just think we downplay our discipleship, and we're lying to ourselves. And so we have to really deal with that.
Right. So what do what's your thought on this? Because we know we hear this all the time, and we unfortunately hear from white people who, let's be clear, they will never be able to understand what we've been through, what we walked through. And we're okay with that because we know you won't understand. But it doesn't mean that you can't have a shift in your mind, a shift in your thinking, talk about the issues that are real, because the issues are real. And so when they make comments like, why do you think people use the phrase all lives matter? Because to me, we're trying to eliminate the fact that we say Black Lives Matter. Now it's an issue when we talk about it, but it's not an issue if you talk about it. So when they say, all lives matter, we're not saying that all lives don't matter. We're just talking about a specific thing like George Floyd and the Rihanna, and the list can go on, and Trayvon, the list can go on and on and on and on and on, of the injustice that has been done to our people just because of the color of their skin. So talk about that for a minute.
Well, I think you said it best. They don't want to deal with the issue because they don't feel it is an issue. Once again, this is their country. They were the ones who were here first. It's all about them. And so it doesn't matter what we want. It doesn't matter that we want equality. It doesn't matter that we want value. It doesn't matter that we are afforded the same opportunities as you are. And so when they say all lives matter, what they're really saying is they don't want to deal with our issues. They don't think it's their responsibility
Right.
and that we don't have a voice.
Right.
And it goes back to voting too. So that's why it is important for us to vote.
Right.
It may not go our way the first time, but if we keep showing up, in the
Keep
Bible, it
showing up.
told Moses to strike the rock. If you keep striking the rock,
Right.
the water will come.
Right.
If we
Right.
keep striking the rock, we will get what we want. If we
Right.
keep showing up to vote, we will get what we want. But we can't say, oh, well, see, that's why I don't vote, because see what happened when I turned
Right.
and give. It doesn't go that way. And
No.
so all lives matter plays it safe for them.
Right.
All
Right.
lives matter means that they are skirting the issue and they're sweeping it under the rug, and they don't want to have to deal with it.
And let's be clear, we're not saying this about all white people or all Asian people. We're just saying that if you are thinking that way, then it's the wrong way to think.
It is.
It is definitely the wrong way to think, and that God created all of us in our image. I mean, I can understand why. I can't remember her name. She's the white news broadcaster on Fox, when she said that Santa Claus is white. I don't know if you remember that. And that she said that she doesn't understand why people don't understand that he's white, and and Jesus is white. And so because we know that, and I was just saying to my husband the other day, this is why a certain group of people really think that they have they're superb to us. I'll use that word, better than us, because they see this image that looks like them. And we know that is definitely not the case. And how we worship the Lord. And I think because they see that, and then it goes back to the word saying that you're made in my likeness and image, and they see this Jesus with long hair and blue eyes. So they literally think, okay, well, then I'm better than anybody else. Anybody. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have anything to do with Black people. It could be Asian. It could be Latinos. They're better, when we know that obviously is not so. So what is your thought what can the businesses, politicians, police, schools, families, neighborhoods, churches, what can we do to increase our understanding of the Black Lives Matter movement?
I think we need to get on one accord and really find out from the Black Lives Matter movement what their goal is and what their platform is. The fallacy of social media is so much is out there.
Oh my gosh, isn't it?
The truth and the non-truth.
The good, bad, and the ugly.
When we happen upon something and we read it, we take it as gospel instead of doing our research and really finding out, hey, what is this really all about?
Right.
Let me get to the root of it. Let me find out for myself what the real deal is. It's just like when we go to look at to search out what politician to vote for. What is their platform? What are they really for? Right. Let me find out for myself and get the truth of the matter. And so I think we need to, it's just like the vaccine. Lord have mercy. There's so much out there.
Right.
But once again, find out for yourself about the vaccines and why it is good for you to come into agreement to get your shot.
Right.
And so I think we once again, this goes back to what I was saying before. We do ourselves a detriment.
Right.
When we don't come together and educate one another about the issues that plague our community, that plague our African American communities, that hinder our education, that hinder our jobs, that hinder our careers, that hinder our homes. And so we need to do more of coming together to flesh out all of these issues that hold us back. And so when we don't, people don't really know what the Black Lives Matter movement is really all about, because they choose not to find out and do their due diligence to do research on what the movement is all about. Right.
They prejudge the movement. They do. They think it's something else. So so let's just talk briefly about, this is the last question. What do we desire to hope for our future generation of our young people to understand about the Black Lives Matter movement? I always said sometimes some of these kids, man, if we could just take them back through slavery and let them go through that, maybe that would jump something in their brain. But so our next generation,
I once again,
or even this generation, Pastor.
our generation, we need help too, because a lot of it stems from our thinking and what we were brought up in, and that's how they get it. I think it's understanding the movement.
Right.
I'll just simply put it like this. When I talk to my kids, I say, listen, the civil rights movement was not that long ago.
No.
The March on Washington, August 29th, 58 years ago.
Right.
When you say 58 years, a lot of people,
especially young people,
your parents, some of your parents are that age.
Right.
Or your grandparents. So think about 58 years. This is not like we're saying this was 2,000 years ago or even 100. This 58 years ago, Martin Luther King, A. Philip Randolph, Bayard Rustin, all of those people, Daisy Bates, they marched for jobs and for freedom 58 years ago. And we're still fighting.
Right. For the same issues.
Have we progressed? Some.
Right.
But have we progressed to the point that we really feel that it's a benefit to us? We have not.
Right.
Because we're still seeing our Black men killed on the street.
Right.
We're still seeing workers working for minimum, bare minimum, not even a wage that they feel they can work to support their family. It's the bare minimum.
Right.
We're still working to not to do away or abolish the police, but we want to have an understanding as to what your job is.
Right.
And that we all should be treated and judged, once again, by the same measure.
Right.
Not to how you feel it should go.
Right.
And so this whole movement right now, we've got to do education. It's just more education.
Absolutely.
On why we need to be vaccinated, on why we need police reform, or why there should be equality across the line, among everybody, not just Black people, but for women. Why should it be, oh my goodness, now when we see a Black woman elevated, oh my goodness, we're pouring champagne, we're popping balloons and all that, because it's a rarity.
Yeah, and it's a long time coming.
So when things are not out of the norm and we see it as a normality, then we can celebrate. But until then, we have a lot of work to do. Martin Luther King wrote a book, Where Do We Go From Here?
Right.
But we got to deal with the here first.
Right.
We can't go anywhere because the here is not straight.
Right.
Still, we have a lot of work to do. We have a lot of mindsets to change. There are still, the insurrection to me showed us where we are. There's still people, a lot of people in this country that feel that they're elitist, that feel they are supreme above us, that feel that they don't have to explain.
Right.
That feel that they don't have to abide by the rules. And so we have a major problem. And I tell my children, you cannot do what they do.
Right.
Because you will not get the same outcome.
Absolutely. And I think too, as far as the vaccine, I was just telling my grandson the other day, it's like vaccine or COVID, and that could lead to death. So it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure it out, but these young people need to know they need to be vaccinated. And stop listening to all this other crap that's out there. Like you said, do the research yourself.
Listen, they have to verify first and then trust. See, our generation, we trust and then verify. Right. They have to verify first and then trust. A pastor friend of ours was talking to his mentor, and his mentor has a 5-year-old daughter. He said, "You're not vaccinated, man. What's going on? You have a young child." And so the young man said, "Listen, I have to do research. I'm still doing my research." And I'm like, "I'm not a scientist. What do you mean?" He said, "I'm still doing my research." So the pastor said, "Do you have to research death?" Right. Exactly. We don't have it. The scientists are saying all those that are in the hospital are the unvaccinated.
Unvaccinated.
And so as a breakthrough COVID case, hallelujah, thank you, Jesus, I'm covered by the vaccine and I'm covered by the blood. Right. But I still thought it was my obligation to take the vaccine. And then we just got boosted. So my thing is, when I go into a hospital if you're going to a hospital for dehydration or whatever your medical issue is, and they hook you up with an IV, you don't know what's in that IV, and I don't know what's in it either.
Nope, nobody does.
But I don't say,
Same
stop,
thing.
wait a minute, don't do it. I don't need it.
Right.
Because I'm trusting the God who put the doctors there, that they know what's best for me.
Right. So talk about that, because you said that you guys just got boosted. So did you have to have the shot for a certain length of time before you got boosted?
It's 6 to 8 months. Some say 8 months. Some are saying 6 to 7 months to give your body some time. So it's actually been six months for us. It's the ending of the 6 months for us, because it was early February when we got our last shot.
Okay.
And so my husband is immunocompromised. I have a heart issue, but he's had cancer. He's had blood clots, and he has cardiomyopathy. So for right now, they're saying you have to be immunocompromised. When I went to the pharmacist, they didn't care. They said, we want everybody to get boosted, because this new Delta variant
it's dangerous.
It's dangerous. And the first vaccine shots that we got won't immune us from that. If that's what give us immunity from that, we need something extra. And so they're trying to do right by us by allowing us to get this shot. And so I cannot for the life of me why people are still saying, I'm on the fence. What are you on the fence about? When people are dying every day. Now our children are dying. You have children in the children's hospital in ICUs dying because they've been exposed to COVID, and they're not. Some of them are not old enough to get vaccinated.
I don't even think they were ready. My opinion is that I don't even think they were ready to go back to school. We're homeschooling our granddaughter. I'm not sending her back to school until this thing is under control.
We were not, and my cousin actually lives in Atlanta. She pulled her son out of school because after 2 days they had 58 cases. And one child actually in his classroom was in the hospital. So she said, no, I think it was too soon, because kids carry germs anyway.
Right. And they want to touch.
And they wanted to act absolutely. And so it was just too soon to have a mass send back to school of children who you are trying to contain and not touch and not come in contact and all that. They weren't built for that.
Right.
And so I just think we need to do a better job when it comes to the masses and moving the masses and caring for the masses and how we go about deciding what's best for them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Pastor Kim, I want to thank you. It's been so good talking to you and seeing you. I want to thank you for being my guest on Real Conversation with Nora today. Are there any last minute comments that you would like to share with our audience about how Black Lives Matter?
Well, thank you so much. This has been a real treat to be reconnected with my sister Nora, who's doing it big for the kingdom. If you are not following her, follow her on all her social media platforms. And I just think it is in order that we be obedient to what God has called us to do and walk in your assignment. And that's how our lives will matter. Do what you're called to do and let God handle the rest.
I love it. Love it. But once again, I want to thank you for your insight on today's topic, and to my Real Conversation with Nora audience, please follow us on social media at BWOTMFG and on Facebook at Businesswomen on the Move for God. Visit our website at BWOTMFG.com and sign up for our new programs, and make sure you stop by a retail store where you will find lots of items, not only for you, but your family and friends. And I also ask your friends to watch the show each week and share it with others. And I look forward to seeing you next Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Real Conversations with Nora. Have a blessed and prosperous week. God bless you.